and welcome back. This session is the future of entertainment beyond 2020. On our panel, we have Silvio Liedtke, Damien Latham, Jacob Wall, Cameron Mitchell, and our moderator for this session is Mr. Charles Reed. So over to you, Charles.
Hello, welcome everyone, and it's good to see you at this Menalac session where we're looking at the small subject of the future of entertainment. So our panelists today are going to be looking at various measures across the MENA region, see what measures are being taken in different sectors to ensure the industry continues to be at the forefront and dealing with challenges. Just checking my mic's on. Yes, it is. Can you hear me okay? Yes, good stuff. So we're going to be addressing these points and speaking to our panelists and really look at what the future holds and what, from their own experience, the attractions they work with are doing. So I'm going to introduce you to each of them. I can only see two of them right now. Can I ask, is Silvio here and Cameron?
Yes, we are in the studio.
Oh, okay, good stuff, good stuff. So yeah, our first speaker is Cameron Mitchell. He's the CEO at MAF Leisure, Entertainment and Cinema. Our second is Silvio Liedtke, CEO at Landmark Leisure. We've got Jacob Wall from Vice President. He's VP and Executive Director at IAPA Europe. And Damien Latham, Head of Attractions at Seven. So good to see you all, guys.
Thank you.
Good stuff. So I thought I'd start off with a question for all of you, really. And if Cameron, if you could perhaps take this first. Tell us, if you can, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing the leisure and attraction industry today?
Sure, thank you. So first of all, thank you and congratulations to Menalac for putting together this really important event and giving us the chance to talk about the important issues that our industry is facing. So without question, I think the most important consideration at the moment is safety, giving our customers the confidence that they can return to a safe environment and have those same fantastic experiences that they're used to having within our venues. If you look at Ski Dubai, we've seen attendances come back sort of en masse, but people are really looking to sort of ensure that, again, it is something that's safe, and they're really looking more so rather than any leisure experience, what is the best, safest leisure experience? Because obviously these are unprecedented times and challenging times for everyone, but people are never going to stop wanting to be entertained and wanting to have great times with their families. So I think that's the number one challenge for all of us, is ensuring that we can give our customers that confidence that they can come back. And critical is ensuring that we don't have any issues in any of our venues. If we have even the smallest issue, giving people the chance to question whether or not we are providing safe environments would be disastrous for our industry. So I think that's absolutely critical.
Good stuff. And same question to you, Silvio.
Yes, obviously I agree with Cameron that this is probably one of the biggest challenges we have. How do we take the fear away of our potential customers that indoor leisure or entertainment center is safe for their children, particularly for the younger? What we see is that entertainment products for older children and young adults are actually thriving to a certain extent, but entertainment centers which cater predominantly to families with young children struggle somewhat quite significantly more. So how we take that fear away? We actively have to engage, and we as Menalac do that as well, with the authorities, because I think it has to be a collaborative effort between the private industry and the authorities to eventually take that fear away. The biggest challenge we have is actually how do we still not operational in countries like Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait. Jordan has gone back into lockdown. So if you look at across the Middle East region, one of the challenges actually main is how do you retain your staff while you are under lockdown? Yeah, we heard earlier from Clive the challenges the Expo Dubai faced with their 1-year delay in terms of ramping up and down their staffing. We faced a similar challenge in our business. How to retain our talent pool in a phase of not generating any revenue? So I do believe one of the key issues for us is to re-win our customers back and in the post-COVID period, it cannot just be done with hygiene and safety. This is a conditions which customer would take for granted. We actually have to think beyond that. So I expect a lot of innovation and a lot of different approaches in terms of how individual businesses gonna win their customers back in the future.
Jakob, the same question to you.
First of all, also thanks to Menalac and Silvio for organizing this wonderful conference and for also inviting IAPA, which shows a wonderful relationship between IAPA and Menalac. I think Silvio and Damien both, Silvio said the right thing there, and Silvio and Cameron, because the focus is definitely on safety. We do not only want to deliver great experiences, but also safe experience. And I think the experience within the last month in many countries across the world has shown that we are able to do that. You know, there's no COVID case coming out from any amusement facility, according to our knowledge, in the EMEA region. So I think it shows that we can guarantee that safety with this. However, there's a certain uncertainty within the market. And for us, I think as operators, it's extremely difficult to work with authorities. We see that, and Silvio just mentioned it in Jordan. We see that in many countries where we now go into a lockdown again. When do we need to close? When can we reopen? What does it mean for staff? And that's a very tough situation, I think. And if we leave the short term and the COVID aspect and look to a longer aspect, I think one of the biggest challenges will be that there are certain fears that following the health crisis, there will be an economic crisis following after that. And also that COVID might not be the black swan, and that we might see more of those things happening in the future. And this is where we need to prepare and know what we have to do in case things like this come back again in the future.
Good stuff. And same question to you, Damien. Biggest challenges?
Yeah, listen, I think the guys have summarised it exceptionally well. I think, it's totally reset the way we think. And as an operator, health and safety has always been the number one priority. So this just sort of, dovetails alongside that, and we just ramp up our procedures and we execute accordingly. I think Silvio said it best, that the guests expect that. I think the innovation part is the really interesting bit for us all. We're all operators and we're all on this call developers as well. And I think as we start to develop these new attractions, how do we integrate that consumer confidence into our design? I think that's the biggest sort of agenda point, certainly on my list at the moment, is how do we tackle that? How do we wrap our arms around that and ensure that as we're designing a multitude of different types of attractions, how do we address that consumer confidence, not only with COVID, but, COVID's one thing. In a few years' time, there'll be something else. So how do we address that? That will be the biggest question, I think, for us as developers and operators.
Fair enough. A question now specifically for Cameron. What do you believe are some important measures that all operators should be considering when planning for the longevity of the attractions, and what have you yourself implemented with regard to your own operations?
Sure, thank you. So I think a couple of things. One, I think, as Damien mentioned, our industry has faced challenges before, all of our industries, and we've come back. We've had pandemics before, we've had world wars. Our industry, people are not going to want to stop being entertained just because of COVID. Now, COVID has had horrific impact, globally, and we're not there yet. Obviously, some good news yesterday, but we're not there. We're not through it just yet. But I think what's critical is we sort of plan for an uncertain future, but we give people a reason to come back quickly. Now, at the moment, in many of the countries where we're operating, like the governments are still saying, don't go out unless you have to. So we shouldn't be surprised with capacity restrictions that people aren't coming back in the numbers that we would expect. But I think people are looking to as soon as they can and as soon as they feel comfortable and safe to return. So what we're doing now is ensuring that every single touch point in every one of our businesses is obviously, COVID proof or, sanitized with those improved sort of health and safety measures. But, from Ski Dubai to Dreamscape to our cinema business to Magic Planet, we're trying to ensure that every single touch point is perfect. So it's no longer about the ride or the experience. It's about every single touch point from when you think about going to when you get home. So the e-commerce, the digital, the food and beverage, the staffing, all that becomes super critical. And I think our ability to react quickly in uncertain times is, again, more critical than ever. So if we see something that's not working, we need to adapt really quickly. We can't take any chances. And, as the team have mentioned, fortunately in cinema and entertainment, there hasn't been any cases or flare-ups. If there is, that could be disastrous. So we need to ensure that as an industry, we put the best standards in place, we protect them fiercely. Our teams know that there is absolutely zero tolerance for, it's almost good enough. It needs to be perfect. We will see some consolidation, we'll see some rationalisation. I think some businesses won't get through this. Silvio mentioned the pressures of, supporting our teams during this really uncertain time. But I think as soon as people do feel comfortable and safe to come back, they're going to come back in mass, as they did in 2008 when we faced sort of some trying commercial times. People wanted a reason to come back. So we need to provide great environments in, again, Ski Dubai, Magic Planet, Vox Cinemas, and ensure that people know that as soon as they're ready to come back, that we're ready and we have the right protection in place, and it's never compromised in any way.
Good stuff. And Silvio, with regard to getting the people back in pre-COVID numbers, I know innovation's really important to you guys at Landmark, and you're always looking to new concepts and brands. Perhaps you could tell us how you believe innovation will impact entertainment in terms of getting those people back.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Obviously, to answer that question, one could run a whole semester on a university, So it's quite interesting. Last night, all of us would have watched the announcement. About the vaccine development. What was interesting is how the stock market reacted. Yeah, the companies which shares were going through the roof over the last 6-7 months during the lockdown, like Zoom or any kind of food delivery companies, they have actually seen 20, 30, 40% declines. And airline, hospitality and hotel businesses shares went through the roof with the announcement. Yeah. So the reason why I mention it is it clearly shows that in the onslaught of one positive bit of news, the human behavior tends to come back to previous normal quite strongly. Certainly the investors think that way. I also believe that part of the innovation has to lie in how do we offer a product in the right way to our potential customers who, let's face it, not all have come back yet. Even in those countries where we have been open now for 3-4 months, we see clear evidence that not all families, and as I mentioned earlier, particularly with young children, feel confident enough to return to indoor leisure facilities. Even the outdoor leisure facilities also finding it quite difficult to attract anywhere near as high numbers as prior. Now, if you look at a lot of industry, the buzzword at the moment is digitalization, digital innovation. And of course, we as indoor leisure and outdoor leisure providers can digitize to a certain extent. But on the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that our product is something, our future, our sanity lies in providing our customers something they can't do at home or they can't do in a digital virtual world. And if we do that right, our innovation has to focus on that. While the customer experience might be more digitized, the leisure experience has to give a sense of being relevant to the extent I can only do that if I go to one of the countless leisure and entertainment attractions here in the Middle East. We certainly have done that already. We also have to face the fact that probably until we probably recover to post-COVID numbers, it might be another year, it might be another 2 years. Nobody really knows. So part of the innovation also has to be how we run as a business. So what is the innovation of creating a sustainable business which can thrive even if the revenue generation might only reach 70-80% of pre-COVID levels. This is innovation in itself, and through different operating models. I can say it here now. Is, for example, we have used the post-COVID era to go ticketless in our operations in our FECs. It reduces the touch points dramatically. So the acceptance we have received from our customers has been quite extraordinary and fully supportive. So this is a kind of innovation. In return, our operating costs have been substantially reduced. Our service level have increased because no customer has to really wait for a ticket eater to work, or a redemption machine needs to be refilled with tickets before the 500 tickets can be paid out. You just won on your skill game. So there's a whole plethora of different innovation. The biggest innovation I'm really looking forward to in our industry is how the value proposition, how the customer engagement for our business will innovate. If I look at the current market, I see a lot of companies offering fantastic discounts of value. Buy 500, get 1,500. Buy one ticket, get one ticket free. Only charge entrance and pay as you go. Some people have changed their business model on that front. So we have seen a lot of discounting going on, and obviously I've thrown it back here maybe to the panel as well. For me the ultimate question is out there: is this the right way? Is with heavy discounting or even reducing the prices to rock bottom level, is it the right approach in terms of maintaining the product integrity and perception in our customer? Or has the innovation come in through different models, like packaging a value proposition to the customer without necessarily downgrading the perception and the quality of the brand? So those are questions of innovations we spent a great deal of time of here at Landmark Leisure, and there's certainly one area I'm looking forward to learn and listen and implement.
And Jakob, you see an awful lot of attractions around the whole region and indeed around the whole world. How do you see attractions changing over the next 3 to 5 years?
I'm a firm believer of this industry and of its concept. And I think the past has shown that we offer products and experiences to our guests which are successful. And you see that because I think throughout the summer as well, even with limited operations in many countries across Europe, you see there was a demand. Despite the uncertainty, despite all those fears, people want to get out. And if you just go somewhere outside and you don't go to a park, you see families spending time with each other, you see groups of friends trying to spend time with each other. And I think once this pandemic is over, this will be even more, and this will be even increased at that level, because we are a social human being. And I think by offering a fun day out to come back to this initial idea of an amusement park, that you take people out from the daily life into a wonderful world of joy, I think this concept will be stronger than ever before, because it is so important for the mental well-being of people to have fun with each other. And this is where we are strong. Yes, there will be changes, but I think we will see what Silvio just described, that we see adaptations to existing concepts. We will see fine-tuning. We see, I assume, more hybrid attractions where you combine several levels. I think also a very important factor, which you have seen in many countries, is that those attractions which offered accommodation went much better through the crisis, because instead of people flying across the world, they stayed within the countries, and they had a great time in maybe doing 2 or 3 days at an attraction or at a resort instead of doing large holidays. I think that is definitely one thing. In Dubai, Laguna, for example, introduced this glamping at the Laguna water park. I think that's a wonderful example for those things. One major question, it comes back to a little bit the discount question which Silvio had, and that is something which probably we can respond in several years, is the question on strategy. we have seen our industry always striving for quantity, for becoming bigger, more visitors, and all of that. And the question is, will we keep on doing that, or will we maybe say, listen, we tend to choose quality over quantity? Because what we have seen this summer was that many parks which had guest restrictions on the total capacity had actually much higher guest satisfactions and a higher per cap spending. So maybe this is something which we will see. I tend to say a little bit the Discovery Cove concept in Florida and Orlando. Will we have more exclusive experience, which might cost more, instead of bringing in the masses? And that is definitely a question which I'm curious to see over the years. But then again, families want to have fun with each other, and I think when we look at the market in the Middle East region, when we look at the market in Europe, in Asia, and America, theme parks, water parks, family entertainment centers offer exactly that, and it's a wonderful industry, and I'm very sure that whatever we have done throughout the last years was very successful, and we will keep on innovating, and we all know that, unfortunately, how much we have to invest in every year in renewing our offer. But I think this way we can ensure that this will stay also like this in the future.
Good stuff. And turning to you, Damien, the face of Saudi Arabia is quickly changing, and we've heard a lot and read a lot about the, mixed-use developments, big giga projects, etc. So, what do you believe are some of the new key concepts and themes we'll be seeing coming out of the kingdom?
Yeah, thanks, Charles. I think essentially what we're looking to do is ensure that we're bringing entertainment to the masses geographically spread. So a true sort of hub and spoke approach to ensuring that all different typologies of entertainment really gets to the far-flung parts of the kingdom. That's all part of our overarching strategy. 20 complexes, 14 cities, more than 100 different attraction types. I think the fact that we've got that ambition and we're driven by 2030 really enables us to think big, but also to think local. It's super important that when we're in APA, we regionalise our entertainment offering, and we make sure that it's suitable and relevant to those people that not only visit APA, but that are resident there and that consistently, will go back to these entertainment propositions we're developing. So that the key word is innovation, yes, but it's also repeatability. And I think all too often, developers and operators can forget that magic word, repeatability. And that comes again down to, the developer having an eye for making sure that further and future investment is consistent, and that the types of offers are diverse enough to offer a nice widespread geographically of different demographic to be able to come into the facility and enjoy it. I think, as we look at our overall proposition, it's all about the mix. It's all about the different typologies that we've got. It's fusing it all together with a public realm, sort of knits it all together. And I think all of those things are crucial to the way we look at entertainment moving forward. And this rather sort of, I won't say old, but this sort of analogy that a lot of North America and European shopping malls had in the early days about entertainment just being an anchor in a box hidden away somewhere. Certainly our proposition is, 70 to 80% entertainment, the rest food and, a small amount of specialty retail. I think that the whole shift and balance of real estate entertainment propositions, that mindset will be reset, certainly in the development that we're looking to put out there, and we're pretty excited about that proposition.
Good stuff. Question for Cameron. With COVID in the last year, what are your thoughts on where we are today with customer confidence, and what can be done further to improve this by both operators and also the authorities in the countries you work in?
Sure. So I think, first of all, I think we need to commend the governments. We operate in Majid Al Futtaim operates entertainment in 8 different countries, and we've reopened in 5 of those, and we've been very sort of proactive, and the government's been very supportive of sort of listening to us and helping us guide them as to what's the best way to sort of protect our guests. Back on Silvio's point about discounting, we're a massive believer in people aren't coming at the moment in the numbers that we'd normally expect because they're being told not to, and because they're being careful. I think discounting doesn't address that. I think charging half or a quarter of what we used to charge to try and encourage people to take risks that they don't want to take is not an option. What we need to do is show people that it is a very safe environment, which it is, and then they will return. And I think offering something cheaply is not an answer to that. What we need to do is address people's concerns and show them all the different things that we've put in place and how we as responsible business people won't do anything that would put their families in any kind of jeopardy. So I think, the Dubai Assured sort of stamp that Dubai put in place was a really great step. And again, I think ensuring that we offer that all-round amazing experience for everyone. People are going to come back. This is a pause. This is not the end of entertainment. I think people are desperate to come out. People will come back, and I think the only time they're going to question us on price is if the visit doesn't meet their expectations of what they expect to pay. People come to us, using their discretionary spend, and they do so knowing that they're going to spend about that much to come to Ski Dubai or Vox Cinemas or Magic Planet or Dreamscape or whatever it might be. As long as we ensure that the experience exceeds their expectation for that price point, they're going to continue to come back. So I think we need to, as an industry, fiercely protect the safety. We need to show people and be very vocal and talk to our customers, tell them what we're doing, ask them for feedback. At Majid Al Futtaim, we've been doing regular sort of monthly surveys and saying, what do you think? Is there anything else we could do that would make you feel more comfortable? And we're in the high 90s in regards to satisfaction levels. Continue to do that, engage with our customers, and I'm sure they'll come back very, very quickly as we see, obviously, the vaccine released and as we see sort of things return to normal.
And Damien, what are your thoughts about customer confidence?
Yeah, I think the guys are right. I don't think discounting is in any way, shape, or form ever the solution. It's a short-term trick that typically never really, in my experience, has ever yielded any particular, fruits. I think you get the experience right, you get the confidence right, you ensure repeatability is there, and you can price with confidence. Sure, you can bundle attractions and you can discount in that way and offer discounts through scale. But I don't think that slashing the price by 50% is going to drive your attendance. People will come in when they know that they're coming into a world-class facility that's well looked after, well operated, that they feel safe in, and that they know they're going to have a great time. That will never go away. And Cameron, Silvio, and Jakob have all stated that, and I don't think any self-respecting operator would think any different.
Okay, and Jakob, just a question for you. What are your thoughts on, if there was a single message you could give to operators today on how to prepare for the future, what would yours be?
I hope I can give 2, because I would actually split it up in internal and external in a certain way. I think internal is being able to adapt, know your customers, know your target audience, what's your core USP, what's your strength, and how do I stay relevant, in changing the offer. And we have seen that with many attractions throughout the summer. Those who adapted quicker were more successful. Drive-in cinemas is one example, special events which kind of are still allowed to operate even under physical distancing. So I think that's on the inside, to really sharpen your profile. On the outside, I think, and Cameron said it, I think it has never been more important to know your stakeholders and to work closely with the authorities, because often what we saw throughout this year is that the authorities didn't know how to kind of tell us how to operate. We are the industry, and we should know best on how to operate safe, because we all agree safety is our number one priority. So it was kind of in our duties to tell them, to guide them what is safe and how can we operate safely for our guests. And I think this is where it's important to keep those relationships alive, to be very close to them, to the authorities, and to guarantee that if that is ever to happen again, that you know who to call and how to go be in this together and get through this together.
So, and same question to you, Sylvia. If you had a single message to operators about how to prepare themselves for the future, what would yours be?
Yeah. Again, such a wide question. So where do I start? So I personally believe the world post-COVID will not be quite the same. Whether it's the customer being more sensitized in terms of hygiene and safety. They might be also a bit more careful. So the first advice was saying, as operators, we have to find a way how we, and I mentioned it earlier as well, how can we remain sustainable and satisfy our shareholders in terms of going through that phase of adoption and transition. Innovation is a key part. I talked about this earlier. I do believe we will see if you fail to stay relevant as an operator, I do believe you will struggle. Everybody alluded on discounting or not. I think it comes down to the simple fact that if you have a relevant product, you do not have to worry about discounting your product because if it's relevant, it will fulfill a demand and the desire and will ultimately stay successful. I personally believe our focus has to be on creating experiences our customers cannot repeat at home with any stretch of imagination in a virtual or artificial world. So if we focus on that, and we have some brands also in Landmark Leisure, and I have seen it others, that if you create the right environment and create the experience, even the most simple of entertainment venues can be quite successful. Case in point is the reinvigoration of bowling centers. Yeah, so whereby because it has evolved to such a stage that it becomes more than just a bowling center. It's all about the experience all around it and the atmosphere created to within, which makes a bowling center done in the right way with a strong F&B offering and some auxiliary entertainment, quite a powerful combination. Yeah, we have in Dubai shortly coming the onslaught of Topgolf, which has been very, very successful in the States and in other parts of the world. And again, it's the simple game of golf, not really reinvented, just packaged in a nice, entertaining way, and making the food and beverage component an integral part of that experience. And of course, this is something it's very social, it's very active, and something you cannot really do at home with 5 or 6 of your friends. So for me, being relevant and being sustainable, realizing what Jacob earlier mentioned as well, customers have come to enjoy lesser crowded places quite good. And we have seen also a trend of a significantly increase in spend per head because and the dwell time has increased as well. So customers spend longer and the affinity to purchase more increases with less crowded atmosphere. So less queues means better overall margin for the customers we create. So, and if we can manage our operating cost model based on that, I do believe we can remain relevant and sustainable going forward.
Good stuff. Now, I'm very much a glass half full kind of guy, and I think although the pandemic has been dreadful, there are definitely some positives to come out of it. So, for example, online booking has been rapidly accelerated. So I thought, Cameron, first, if you could tell us a couple of things you think have come out of the pandemic that will end up being positive.
Sure. So I think another fresh look at safety is obviously critical, and as my colleagues mentioned, it's always something that sort of is the backbone of our industry. Digital e-commerce, sort of interacting with our customers the way they want to interact with us, not vice versa. Now, on the cinema side of our business, we've already had sort of online embedded for a decade, and it's very important sort of for us, not because it saves cost, but because it's a better customer experience. And I think that's critical, making sure that the customer experience is at the center of everything that you do and think. So I think the safety element, the digital element is going to be important. And I think the more integrated offering as well, making sure that, as I think Silvio mentioned, we don't think people get up and sort of say, I really feel like going bowling today. They wake up and they say, I'd like to be entertained today. What are my options? And ensuring that, be it bowling, cinemas, Magic Planet, skiing, whatever it might be, that it's a great environment. It's something that people can do easily. Again, I can buy my ticket, the pre-experience, the post-experience is all really critical. And when they're in venue, we need to really embrace that moving forward. And those businesses that do that the best, I feel, will be the ones that are most successful.
Interesting. And Silvio, any sort of positives from the pandemic for you?
For me, anybody alluded in one way or the other already to it. For me, it enabled us firstly to create a more sustainable business, in my view. We had a very extremely hard look in our mirror, and I feel very, very confident about that. The second thing is it's quite clear now that the new leisure spaces coming up have to be dictated slightly from a different angle. I think the social engagement factor will be key going forward. The relevance because the digitization and augmented and virtual reality platforms have evolved so much that if we as a business, as a physical business, do not be able to create really spaces which remain relevant for our target audience, I'm not sure. I take the case in point of Bounce, which core principle was a trampoline park. If you look at the latest innovation, it's more a social space, and I do believe another big winner in this whole creating this immersive interactive spaces is food and beverage, which will be integral part of it's almost like a food and beverage location with added entertainment, certainly when you look at the revenue mixes. So I think COVID has accelerated that trend quite dramatically. And I do believe marketing and consumer retention innovation will explode into never before seen dimensions and varieties, and customers will have a field day of choice once the major restrictions are lifted in terms of what to offer, how to spend their disposable time, or what to offer their children as future entertainment.
So, Damien?
Yeah, I mean, without paraphrasing the guys, because they framed it up well, I'd say one of the most valuable things, if not the most valuable thing, is people have had the time to reflect. They've had time. Time has got to be the most valuable thing, right? They've had time with their family. They've learned to, I guess, interact with their family for long periods of time that they haven't had before. And in the main, I'm sure the majority of people have found new ways of living together. And in short, I guess spending more time with each other will undoubtedly lead to people wanting to visit attractions again and bringing themselves together at attractions. It's a busy world, right? It was hugely busy before the pandemic. It will be busy again, but I think it'll be a slightly different approach. I think, people will spend more time with the family, and people will adhere to perhaps the values that they may have had with all the other social things that go on in their lives getting in the way of that valuable leisure time. I think it will become even more paramount to people's lives in the way they interact. And I think we as operators and developers have a responsibility to react to that now and make sure, the guy said it well, that, the old adage of we all have a queue as an operator is pretty much flushed away. And we need to think of great creative ways to ensure that our guests can seamlessly go through our organisations, our attractions, and just feel that experience is extremely well thought through. So yeah, in summary, Charlie, I think it's time. Time has been the most valuable thing that certainly myself and my team have got out of this, and I think will reflect in future developments.
And Jakob, what changes have been accelerated for the industry that will be good?
I think most of the things were said. I'm not even sure who of you said it, but I think online reservations for attractions will stay on. Based in the past, I think most of the operations planning were based on the weather forecast. Now, actually, many attractions have solid data, know how many people will come, and I would be surprised if some of those wouldn't keep that doing for the future. So I think that is definitely helpful in terms of digitizing our audience, and I'm sure that is going to stay in addition to what we have heard before.
Fantastic. And finally, I've got a question in from Mr. Alan Partridge in Norfolk, which I've been asked to ask. Damien, your favourite ride in the MENA region?
Flying Aces.
Silvio?
Velociraptor.
Cameron?
Ferrari World, I think best experience, amazing, in general.
And Jakob?
Green Lantern at Warner Brothers Abu Dhabi.
Oh,
Yeah, I like that one as well. Can I have two? Johnny, is that all right? I like that one as well.
So, guys, thanks very much for that. I'm now going to hand you over to Rosa, who I believe has got some questions.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Thanks, Charles.
Thanks, Charles, and thank you very much to all our panelists discussing the future of entertainment with us today. We have had some good questions come in. Unfortunately, we're only going to have time for one, so just bear with me while I find it. Okay, so we're looking at, given the comments on innovation, what is the focus of your capital expenditure? The question being, do you think you'll be spending more on expansion or more on refurbishment? Silvio, can you please start?
Thank you. Now, listen, it depends, So it's very difficult in the current environment to demonstrate to a shareholder that the business is booming again. So capital is very, very hard to come by. Yeah. As I said to you, our customers spend longer in our stores, and they tend to spend more. So maintaining the quality of our assets, in my view, is equally as a priority as it is to finding growth opportunities. But the growth opportunity will be very difficult to justify if you still struggle to have 50% of your portfolio closed. So at the moment, if you want the honest answer, is maintaining our current assets is currently our capital priority.
Thank you very much. Cameron, can I ask you also to share your views on that? Are we looking from the MAF point of view at refurbishment or expansion over the next couple of years?
I think it's going to be a happy balance of both. I think we have to make sure that we meet that minimum sort of exceptional standard for everything. I think we're all going to optimise a lot. So marginal investments won't happen anymore. And I think we'll, as Silvio I think mentioned, we'll be quick to sort of action anything that we don't think is sort of meets that standard. But I think it's also critical that we prioritise and see whatever's going to make the biggest impact on the customer and obviously give our shareholders the best return. So the big assets are going to demand a lot of attention. New assets there's still a lot of opportunity in the region, but optimising the fewer and probably doing less of spreading capital out amongst everything and really prioritising where's best to sort of invest that capital, which is, as Silvio again mentioned, sort of more difficult than ever to source, I think is going to be a priority.
That's great. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, time is pushing us on, and we're going to be getting ready for our next panel. Once again, thank you, Charles. Thank you to all our panelists for a great session. Please bear with us, and we'll be back with you very shortly.